know, day 2 of SWELL passed by, and we did not get the huge announcements we were expecting. So now what? Sell the XRP and go away? Come on guys, let's be serious and let's just stick to the facts. First, let's see what really happened during 2019 SWELL event of November 7 and 8, and then we'll look at 2018 SWELL, which happened from 30th September to 2nd October. Now yes, I know, we will jump into the current highlight, which is the important stuff from SWELL 2020, and we will do that in detail. But before that, we have to look at this area, which is the SWELL and the price, because a lot of guys are looking at price and SWELL. What you really have to understand, it is kind of a bit opposite based on the history. Now we'll have to understand that, because how can I say, one more thing is that yes, they gave a hint in 2020, which I will really go in detail here today, that from now, that's October to December, that's till 2021 starting, we are going to have 24% of Ripple's guys going into production, meaning currently they have 34% of their total clients in production. Say they have 100 of them working with them, 34 of them is in production, and that is 300 clients or 350 as the last announcement, right? And now within next 3 months, 24% is going to go live. That means it's going to be at least next 200 to 250 institutions in next 3 months. Think guys, we got in last 3 years kind of 300 350 partnerships, and next 3 months it's going to be 200 250. That's huge thing to consider. So that we will actually close many of the NDAs by that time. Maybe we don't know, that's just speculation from our end looking at that document. Now we will actually go through all of that. Before that, we just have to look at this. What is the reality here? In 2019 SWELL event, say the SWELL started by 7th of November towards 8th of November. So before that, the price went from the bottom of say around 0.22 towards around 0.31. So it was in the anticipation of that news, and it was like buy the rumor, sell the news kind of thing. They sold there and the price went down. Now look at what really happened before that in 2018. Just before that, the price went to the upside, and just while this was happening, it actually went to the downside. Now this particular line I've drawn assets in a 3-day chart. No, a daily chart, I didn't actually put that accurately. It should be on 30th September, which is the peak of that one, and then it dropped. So it is really buy the rumor, sell the news kind of events happening from last 3 years. So you shouldn't be actually surprised of seeing that. It's not that huge deal, because when you zoom in and look at it, it's still following a pattern. It's still in that valid trend line. So now let's explain about the announcements which really came out in the SWELL. So let's look at what really is happening around us and what the SWELL event is actually bringing to us. I know, I kind of agree with you guys, because this is a content of say around 3.5 hours, going through the entire stuff and picking out all the important things can be difficult, and for me it was really difficult to go through all of this. Now I kind of have different sections created. Say in just one section you would be getting 10-20 key points, and in total we'll actually look at different insights from the same item which is being highlighted in this SWELL 2020, and then we'll move on one by one.
focusing on use cases like supply chain deployment and things like that. But now we're really focusing for the next 18 months or so in fintech. So we are really looking at DeFi, digital assets. We changed the name of the platform from blockchain and distributed technologies to blockchain digital assets, because we were really thinking a lot about that space and what we are seeing, and the excitement I think around that is very warranted around this new space.
Yes, yes. And so the group, the Digital Currency Governance Consortium, and Ripple is very pleased to be a member of that.
I'm so glad to have you.
Yes.
One of the important points to note there is the World Economic Forum changed their perspective from vague area towards the concentration into digital assets. So that really is an important thing to kick off this day too. Yes, I agree. The keynote speaker really highlighted that point. And then from Ripple, Monica highlighted that yes, we are working in that initiative, and they are really happy to join that particular event. Now, when you actually go towards around, say, the next area here, you kind of get about a talk which really concentrate on governing currencies and that kind of stuff. So let's listen to that.
Of the economy and the timing and technical readiness and all of that kind of thing. So as a next phase, we launched the Digital Currency Governance Consortium. We announced that, rather, I should say, in Davos. We were going to be exploring this new area. Again, it's very global, multi-stakeholder. We've got, it's from all over the world. It's a very geographically dispersed group. It's got central banks. It's got certain startups, different protocol, academics, all kinds of different people, technical people, non-technical people, regulators, everyone in it coming together. And the goal of this is really to focus on stablecoin and CBDC specifically. And to say, what are the use cases here? What's going to really make this take off?
Now, when they highlight the need of governance or regulatory clarity and the concentration precisely into CBDCs and stablecoins, and next, what they are going to talk here is about important factors, the parameters which we were being discussing about Ripple and XRP. And when you look back in documents from these institutions, you get to understand that Ripple's XRP is also considered as a stable coin from their perspective, because their definition for stable coin is kind of a bit different from what we actually generally think. So yeah, now let's continue.
So we are looking at not just regulation that might be impeding or might help kind of support the adoption of this, or the acceleration of this space, but also some of the technical requirements and considerations there. But also really pushing hard on use cases like financial inclusion. This is one that's close to my heart. It gets a lot of airtime in our space, but it's a lot of airtime. Right? There's a lot of talk around this, but it's a complex space. It's very, very hard. Whether you're talking about development aid, domestic financial inclusion, or cross-border remittances and things like this. So
you saw that keywords. You really have to keep those keywords noted for now. Because as we progress in this SWELL and the next document we are going to go through, you really will be needing those keywords, say financial inclusion, domestic finance, then cross-border remittance. So you have to consider all of these factors as we move further, right? So next is we are going to jump a bit further into the same one. So it's we'll jump after the keynote speaker, and we'll go into the next area where they talk about regulations for digital assets, how the different type of roles and all. And it really gets interesting when we are able to see a guy from Accenture, which really is important to me, because Accenture is working with different projects. Now, yeah, we'll actually jump into that and play through it and understand what we got here.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Ripple SWELL conference on regulation, the regulatory approach, and digital assets. My name is Usman Mandeng. I'm a senior advisor with Accenture, focusing on digital currencies.
Now remember, when they say focusing on digital currencies, they do mean it. So he's from the team of Accenture, who has already dealt with the e-krona from Sweden, the digital dollar. Now, the Accenture is also dealing with the digital dollar project. So Accenture is really working towards the digital currencies, digital dollar, all of these items. So as we progress with this discussion within these individuals, you have to understand the questions pointed out by this guy really gets, kind of arrowed, pinpointed towards the area of adoption, regulation, settlement asset, different geographical regions, say Europe, and their question related to DLT, which settlement medium should be there, kind of all the things, and then jump the move off as well in towards the financial inclusion side, all of those clear aspects. So let's start with that.
to crypto assets and regulation, I think it's fair to say, I'm working in the financial sector. It's fair to say that we have not seen this sort of proliferation of crypto assets that some have expected, the tokenization of securities and other financial instruments, etc. Now, in part, that may be because regulation remains too uncertain to provide a solid basis for these instruments to emerge.
Now, for him, in his perspective, he's stating that it is partly because we don't have regulatory clarity around the globe. That's why we are lagging. We haven't entered into that phase where every asset is getting tokenized. We are going digitized every manner, every aspect of the financial industry. But now, yes, we can see that in the other side, not this well, in the other real area of the world, when we are looking at it, we kind of get the information from different documents that we are entering into a digitized, tokenized economy where they are looking at which platform to tokenize on. And yes, it is still like reading the books without start implementing things. So yeah, we have that kind of aspect. Now let's continue with their talk about the settlement asset.
There could also be the fact that there's still uncertainty when it comes to the settlement medium. Now, the fact that central banks are now moving closer and closer to a possible adoption of CBDC may change that and provide a high-quality settlement medium, of course, for these assets if they were to emerge.
Now, that kind of clears a lot of different aspects and things which we were talking previously here. Say, if we are about to see central bank digital currencies around the globe and then tokenization, it really gets a lot interesting because you now need a bridge asset even in the domestic economy. Now, if you remember at the starting of this, I told you domestic finance, cross-border payments, or financial inclusion, those keywords to be kept in your mind. So one of that is coming soon. Like as we discuss about central bank digital currency, this really gets serious. Now, it is geographical, right? So let's actually listen to the area of Europe and what that guy from Europe states clearly about the distributed ledger technology and raises that serious question of what really is happening there.
So the regulation often assumes and sometimes even requires the use of a particular technology. And in Europe, for example, we've seen that there are very serious questions about distributed ledger-based market infrastructures. So whether or not you can run, from a legal perspective, a trading venue on a distributed ledger technology, or whether a central securities depository can be implemented through distributed ledger technology and tokenization. In our view at the European Commission, this is possible, but and it may even be desirable, but the legal situation is not yet adapted to that. And we're in the process of adapting our regulatory framework to make it clear that these technologies have their role to play in the digital assets and in the digital securities space.
Now that kind of raises the alert that Europe is actually going to look at distributed ledger technology in a way that they are going to tokenize things on DLT. Now the current assets, if they are being tokenized into DLT, even for domestic payments from one end to another, they'll need a settlement asset. And that's where we are really headed here next.
A lot of the cryptos that we've seen are some sort of settlement medium. I mean, you could argue whether they're adequate or not, but in the wake of Bitcoin, of course, we have a series of hundreds, if not thousands, of different cryptos, many of which would like to assume a function of a settlement medium, of a payments mean, basically. Now, currencies typically are not regulated, or at least not very much. Hence, I find surprising that the obstacles that something like a Bitcoin or so has encountered, given that typically currencies are not regulated at all. Could this be changing? That is a regulatory divide by which, if it is a financial instrument, it's one thing. If it's a
now, yes, for that particular point about the settlement medium, I will say this. there are a lot of different tokens. Say even consider Bitcoin came out saying it's for peer-to-peer payments. And during the network congested times, you know how much time it takes, what the amount it costs. Even if you consider Ethereum, that kind of doesn't actually make sense for me to send, say, $1 and pay the fees $20. That's not the scalability which we are looking at, or we need to go in that scale, looking at the 7 billion population. Come on, now let's say 10% of that even comes into this network in next 1 year, 2 years. This won't be the level of scalability which we require there. And that's why you have to look at settlement medium which can really take you guys through that requirement. So not all of the assets are created in same way. Say Ethereum or others have been created with different things in mind. We don't actually need all of those different things. XRP was precisely designed as a payment asset, as a bridge asset, right? And then now as it was designed as an appreciating asset and a financial instrument which can bridge between different assets, it can be also used for financial inclusion of the unbanked, right? Now let's actually jump into that area and then move on to others. From this point, they talk about using fintech for financial inclusion. Now that really becomes huge. Why? Because we are looking at banks and financial institutions which have to be much more democratic to provide this, because currently they are not in that manner. They are kind of profit hungry, and that's the reason we still have a lot of unbanked population around the globe. Even in US, even in developed economies, we are not just talking about the emerging markets, we are talking even about the advanced market where you still have issues like this. So now the entire aspect of that particular talk goes like that, and I'm a bit kind of not that much happy about the announcements in SWELL till now, but we are moving into the important parts from here. Now here they talk about blockchain in payments, from adoption to the growth trajectory. Now that is in kind of with Ripple and SWELL in that kind of a manner which we would understand easily. Now I won't actually play the audio there, instead I'll go through the area which really is interesting for us, and then I'll show the documents which we really have to talk about, because the instinct which we have to see is that they are talking about the document which is open here. I've actually opened that document here. So it's really about from adoption to growth, and they're talking about this particular report there. You kind of get to see different stuffs, and here this is one of the aspects to show where we are right now. So you should understand that it is important to understand where we are right now, right? No one will have a different idea about that, because now I'm jumping into that document from here, because this is the same document which they are discussing here, and they are highlighting the results which I'm showing there. It's on the same report. There is nothing different from what we are looking here in this SWELL event, and then what we are looking now in the document. So what really is important is this part in this video. See, in the SWELL they were actually highlighting about this. Till 2020 we have 34% in production. Think, that was around 350 customers for Ripple. Now from that 2020 to 2021 we are looking at 24% more. So even if you consider 34% as 300 till 2019 SWELL announcement, and then consider the next 50 within this one, say the next 24% should be around 200 to 50%, and even if 50 is announced, you still be getting around 175 to 200 partners announced by 2020 to 2021. So that really is important to understand. Why? Because if you look at that, it's only like 2.5 months left for those announcements, and those should be one of the important announcements, because there are a lot of huge players who are working with Ripple the company. Now it will be kind of speculating from my end that when we see these kind of movements in the market, it should start that FOMO. Now if it doesn't, You have to understand retailers are kind of being depressed, and that's what the whales want you guys to be. Depressed, sell your XRP, go away, because after that they'll push the price so much up and they'll profit for that. And as the price moves to the upside, they'll make you come back and chase the market. So at the stage you are chasing, they'll dump on you and take that profit and get away. So those guys who are here from late 2017 or early 2018 when the market was pumping and now stuck there with that kind of average, trying to lower the average dollar cost averaging and bring their average somewhere near the current price, you really have to listen to this. This is where we are right now, in between 5 and 6. So what are we looking at in between 5 and 6 here? It's the flywheel effect. So what is the next point? Boosting with digital assets. So what was the moment till now? It is to go live with different solutions offered by Ripple, the company itself. So if you look at that, you can see the innovators, early adopters, early majority, and in that early majority, you kind of got around 300 institutions. Now you're going to get that late majority, then the movement, which is like the guys who are kind of chasing the market. So then they are showing 21% running pilot of proof of concept still after 2021. So that's why the framework till 2024 is really important to understand. Now, when we even say that, you have to understand this document is not over. When you move in the same document into page number say 15, now yes, in between there are important stuffs, but we'll jump into an area which is interesting for us, the digital assets and how it's going to be affected. So now, as we move into different aspects, you have to understand that 82% of the respondents are happy to use a digital asset. Now that is not a small stuff to think. And when you come to that, it really gets about the regulatory clarity and interoperability and low volatility exposure. Now think, they are talking about central bank digital currencies. And now we are getting back to those key points which we mentioned at the beginning. Say the bridge aspect of XRP for domestic or even international systems. So let's read it. It will be critical to bridge the gaps between various central bank digital currency initiative with existing domestic and international systems, as well as other digital currencies, to ensure central bank digital currencies are successful on a global scale. So are we really way back from what we really have to get? I don't think so. Yes, the governments are a little bit slow because of the idiotic speed at which they are walking. It should be much faster. They should be running from this particular aspect to show the impact, because everywhere the health crisis is being highlighted and saying this is the reason why we are accelerating. But yes, even though we can see some respondents or the customers are accelerating, not every government is accelerating on the same issue. So that really gets interesting. So what if we are reaching this kind of a level by 2024? It should be huge, right? And then we look at what should really happen when these kind of announcements come out, because that really comes back at the true value of the asset which you are talking about. And the true value for XRP is kind of being highlighted here as say 10 euro. There's 10 euro, so let's take it towards $12. Now that's in dollar terms, the true value should be around $12. Think, this is an asset which price currently is around 0.25, 0.26, and the fair value or the true value for that is being shown as $12. And understand one thing, when the market moves, it doesn't actually move to the true value or fair value. It gets, psychologically a bit of confusing, and it just gets pumped way above that. And that is to keep a lot of people stuck at an area where they would be holding on to that assets for a long time until it reaches that area again. So don't be that guy who chases the market. Instead, be the wise guy who accumulate at the bottom and then sell at the top. Don't do the opposite. It doesn't actually make any sense. Even the basic education will tell you buy low, sell high. Guys, I hope you received value for your time, and if you did, Please do support the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. If you would like to support the channel more, you can use the PayPal, Patreon or the XRP wallet address given in the description below. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.